Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome on into North Dakota Today. The 2024 Midwest Region Leadership Development Academy is coming up in September, but your time to book your spot is happening now. Joining us this morning, we have Chastity Oden-Heidi and Danielle Libke with the NDCA joining us with all the details. Good morning, gals.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
Yes, of course. It's wonderful to have you so we can all start planning ahead to open things up. Just tell us about the Leadership Development Academy.
Yeah, the North Dakota Counseling Association is really excited to be hosting the Midwest Leadership Academy in September. And it's a great opportunity for leaders in North Dakota to come. The last time it was held in person was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota in 2018. So this is the first time it's in person. So we're really excited about that. It's a great opportunity to learn about executive boards, governing councils, just the different roles in the boards and fiduciary responsibilities and things like that. And so we're really excited to be hosting that.
Okay, so it sounds like we're focusing a lot on counselor growth, leadership, mentorship. Who would you say specifically the program is geared toward, and what's the big theme?
Yeah, so the theme this year is courage and bravery in leadership. So there's a little bit of a misnomer that you have to be brave all the time and not scared in leadership. And so we're going to really talk about the courage that it takes and how you persevere through some of that. Just the, like she was mentioning, the unknowns about being on a board. We're lucky to have a local expert, Dr. Jill Nelson from NDSU, will be one of our keynote speakers. She's done some work with Brene Brown, and so we're really excited to hear what she has to say.
Wow, yeah, that was quite the buzzword right there. Yeah, a lot of us familiar with that author and her work. So when and where is the event?
It's in Fargo.
Yes.
The dates?
Yep, September 27th through the 29th. We won, or we had a proposal to host it here in Fargo. We think Fargo has a lot to offer. And so there's 13 states in the Midwest region of ACA, and so we're excited to host here in Fargo in September. It's still beautiful. People think there's going to be snow on the ground, but we assure them it will still be nice.
Knock on wood.
Yes, you never know. Yes.
Okay, so what can people expect? So it's a 3-day program. Okay, so kind of walk us through the ins and outs and the speakers and stuff like that.
We start on Friday at noon. So it's a half a day Friday, full day Saturday, and then a half a day on Sunday.
Okay.
And we start with a keynote speaker. There's breakout sessions. I know you know a little bit more about the breakout sessions, but we're really excited about Jill to come and talk and be our keynote speaker. There's several breakout sessions. I know we have some activities in the evening, a social, going to the wood chipper, and things like that. So
the number one thing to do in Fargo. I love that. Okay, so remind us, how do we get booked? How do we reserve our spot?
Yes, so if you go to ndcounseling.org, there will be a tab there where you can register. We are really lucky to have 3 local graduate programs in counseling, so we're really hoping the graduate students show up.
Sure.
Future leaders are important to us, and so we want them to show. There's definitely a mental health bend to the program, but anyone is welcome that's interested in leadership.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about the NDCA.
I'm Danielle Libke, and I'm the current president of the North Dakota Counseling Association, and we are a governing board that oversees all of the counselors in North Dakota, both school and mental health. And I guess we're working towards building our membership, and we have a strategic plan that Chastity worked really hard on, and I feel like we're in a really good place right now to be able to host the region Leadership Academy.
This is exciting. This is a big deal.
Yes.
And then you were former president, right?
Yes, past president as of a few days ago.
Okay, perfect. All right, before we let you go, remind us one more time how to register.
Yes, ndcounseling.org.
Thank you both so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
I'm excited for you. All right, stick around, everybody. Plenty more happening here on North Dakota Today.